Welcome to BlackPearl's world and the wonderful world of rest time stories. Enjoy. My brother Martin, a sister remembers. Growing up with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Christine King Farris, illustrated by Chris Soentpiet. Long before he became a world-famous dreamer, Martin Luther King Jr. was a little boy who played jokes and practiced the piano and made friends without considering race. But growing up in the segregated South of the 1930s forced a very young Martin to learn a bitter lesson. Little white children and little black children were not allowed to play with one another. Martin decided then and there that something had to be done. And as a 7-year-old, he embarked on a journey that would change the course of American history. Renowned educator Christine King Farris, older sister of the late Dr. King, joins with celebrated illustrator Chris Soentpiet to tell this inspirational story of how one boyhood experience inspired a movement. It's a tale that will touch the hearts of all people and remind us all that if you believe hard enough, dreams can become reality. I have a dream that one day, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., August 28, 1963. To my granddaughter Farris Christine Watkins, and all the other children of the world who will continue my brother's dream of turning the world upside down. Christine King Farris. Gather around and listen as I share childhood memories of my brother, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am his older sister, and I've known him longer than anyone else. I knew him long before the speeches he gave and the marches he led and the prizes he won. I even knew him before he first dreamed the dream that would change the world. We were born in the same room, my brother Martin and I. I was an early baby, born sooner than expected. Mother dear and Daddy placed me in the chifforobe drawer that stood in the corner of their upstairs bedroom. I got a crib a few days afterward. A year and a half later, Martin spent his first night in that hand-me-down crib in the very same room. The house where we were born belonged to Mother Dear's parents, our grandparents, the Reverend and Mrs. A.D. Williams. We lived there and with them and our Aunt Ida, our grandmother's sister. And not long after my brother Martin, who we called ML, because he and Daddy had the same name, our baby brother was born. His name was Alfred Daniel, but we called him AD after our grandfather. They called me Christine, and like 3 peas in one pod, we grew together. Our days and rooms were filled with adventure stories and tinker toys with dolls and Monopoly and Chinese checkers. And although Daddy, who was an important minister, and Mother Dear, who was known far and wide as a musician, often had work that took them away from home, our grandmother was always there to take care of us. I remember days sitting at her feet as she and Aunt Ida filled us with grand memories of their childhood and read to us about all the wonderful places in the world. And of course, my brothers and I had each other. We 3 stuck together like the pages in a brand new book. And being normal young children, we were almost always up to something. Our best prank involved a fur piece that belonged to our grandmother. It looked almost alive, with its tiny feet and little head and gleaming glass eyes. So every once in a while, in the waning light of evening, we'd tie that fur piece to a stick. And hiding behind the hedge in front of our house, we would dangle it in front of unsuspecting passersby. Boy, you could hear the screams of fright all across the neighborhood. Then there was a time Mother Dear decided that her children should all learn to play piano. I didn't mind too much, but ML and AD preferred being outside to being stuck inside with our piano teacher, Mr. Man, who would rap your knuckles with a ruler just for playing the wrong notes. Well, one morning, ML and AD decided to loosen the legs on the piano bench so he wouldn't have to practice. We didn't tell Mr. Man, and when he set, crash, down he went. But mostly we were good, obedient children, and ML did learn to play a few songs on the piano. He even went off to sing with our mother a time or two. Given his love for singing and music, I'm sure he could have become as good a musician as our mother, had his life not called him down a different path. But that's just what his life did. My brothers and I grew up a long time ago, back in a time when certain places in our country had unfair laws that said it was right to keep black people separate because our skin was darker, and our ancestors had been captured in far-off Africa and brought to America as slaves. Atlanta, Georgia. The city in which we were growing up had those laws. Because of those laws, my family rarely went to the picture shows or visited Grant Park with its famous cyclorama. In fact, to this very day, I don't recall ever seeing my father on a streetcar because of those laws and the indignity that went with them. Daddy preferred keeping ML, AD, and me close to home, where we'd be protected. We lived in a neighborhood in Atlanta that's now called Sweet Auburn. It was named for Auburn Avenue, the street that ran in front of our house. On our side of the street stood 2-story frame houses, similar to the one we lived in. Across it crouched a line of 1-story row houses and a store owned by a white family. When we were young, all the children along Auburn Avenue played together, even the 2 boys whose parents owned the store. And since our house was a favorite gathering place, those boys played with us in our backyard and ran with ML and AD to the firehouse on the corner, where they watched the engines and the firemen. The thought of not playing with those kids because they were different, because they were white and we were black, never entered our minds. Well, one day ML and AD went to get their playmates from across the street, just as they had done 100 times before. But they came home alone. The boys had told my brothers that they couldn't play together anymore because AD and ML were Negroes. And that was it. Shortly afterward, the family sold the store and moved away. We never saw or heard from them again. Looking back, I realized that it was only a matter of time before the generations of cruelty and injustice that Daddy and Mother Dear and Mama and Aunt Ida had been shielding us from finally broke through. But back then, it was a crushing blow that seemed to come out of nowhere. Why do white people treat colored people so mean? ML asked Mother Dear afterward. And with me and ML and AD standing in front of her, trying our best to understand. Mother Dear gave the reason behind it all. Her words explained. The streetcars our family avoided, and the whites only sign that kept us off the elevator at City Hall. Her words told why there were parks and museums that black people could not visit, and why some restaurants refused to serve us, and why hotels wouldn't give us rooms, and why theaters would only allow us to watch their picture shows from the balcony. But her words also gave us hope. She answered simply, because they just don't understand that everyone is the same. But someday it will be better. And my brother ML looked up into our mother's face and said the words I remember to this day. He said, Mother dear, one day I'm going to turn this world upside down. In the coming years, there would be other reminders of the cruel system called segregation that sought to keep black people down. But it was Daddy who showed ML and AD and me how to speak out against hatred and bigotry and stand up for what's right. Daddy was the minister of Ebenezer Baptist Church, And after losing our playmates, when MLAD and I heard our father speak from his pulpit, his words held new meaning. And Daddy practiced what he preached. He always stood up for himself when confronted with hatred and bigotry. And each day he shared his encounters at the dinner table. When a shoe salesman told Daddy and ML that he'd only serve them in the back of the store because they were black, Daddy took ML somewhere else to buy new shoes. Another time, a police officer pulled Daddy over and called him boy. Daddy pointed to ML sitting next to him in the car and said, "This is a boy. I am a man. And until you call me one, I will not listen to you." These stories were as nourishing as the food that was set before us. Years would pass and many new lessons would be learned. There would be numerous speeches and marches and prizes, but my brother never forgot the example of our father or the promise that he had made to our mother on the day his friends turned him away. And when he was much older, my brother ML dreamed a dream that turned the world upside down. You Can Be Like Martin, a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Mildred D. Johnson. Martin was a peaceful boy and peaceful when a man. He wanted peace for everyone all throughout our land. You can be a peaceful child, even a peaceful man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin was an intelligent boy, intelligent when a man. He wanted good schools for everyone, all throughout our land. You can be an intelligent child, even an intelligent man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin was a proud boy, and proud when he came a man. He tried to teach pride to black people all throughout our land. You can be a proud child, and proud when you're a man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin was a reading boy, kept reading when a man. He knew good readers were needed all throughout our land. You can be a reader. Read on when you're a man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin was a speaking boy, kept speaking when a man. His words touched many listeners all throughout our land. You can be a speaker. Speak on when you're a man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin was a praying boy. How he prayed when he was a man. He prayed that men would do right deeds all throughout the land. You can pray in your own way. Pray more when you're a man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin had a dream, that all people would be free to live and work together in a country filled with peace. You can be a dreamer. Keep dreaming when a man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin Luther King was a warrior of love, a kind and loving man. He wanted all to be loving all throughout our land. You can be kind and loving. Grow to a loving man. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Martin Luther King sang, "We shall overcome." Sang it throughout our land. You can overcome, my children. Yes, you can. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. You can be like Martin. Yes, you can. Afterword. This book is written as an accurate reflection of the childhood experiences of my brother Martin, the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Although many stories have been told about Martin's childhood, This one is firsthand. As the sole survivor of the family into which Martin Luther King Jr. was born, I feel it is important to share some true, funny, intriguing elements of Martin's earlier days. No other document can share this true story. Many see Martin as a very serious-minded individual, stiff-necked and always focused. What has not been emphasized enough is that Martin was once a boy. He, like others, developed gradually. He was funny. He was curious. He liked to play. He was a regular fella. I wanted to reflect another side of Martin's life story. The days that I spent with him, watching him as we grew older, were valuable and meaningful exercises for me. They set him on his ultimate course. He indeed became a world leader. His contribution to the world cannot be denied or ignored, and it is important for young people to realize the potential that lies within each of them to do this, and greater works. I believe that a poem by Mildred D. Johnson entitled "You Can Be Like Martin" reflects my feeling in this regard. The highlight of the book, I think, is the moment that Martin expressed his commitment to affect change. Perhaps the information contained in this book will inspire young people to also become leaders of the future. Aside from my memories of Martin's early years, I owe it to him to tell the full story. We had a great time as kids. I miss those days. The memories that I share here hope to bring those times back and ensure that they are available for generations to come. Christine King Farris, June 2002. The above photograph of author with her brother Martin Luther King Jr. taken in 1930. The background photograph was taken in 1935 when King was 6 years old. Illustrator's note for those who continue to preserve the legacy of Dr. King's dream. In May of 1999, while making a presentation for the International Reading Association in San Diego, California, I had the honor and pleasure of being introduced to Mrs. Christine King Farris. She attended my presentation and afterward asked me if I would be interested in working with her on a project, a book about her childhood with her brother, the late Dr. Martin Luther King. I was incredibly flattered. As a youngster, I had idolized this remarkable human being. Mrs. Farris and I kept in contact, and before long, her editor at Scheiman & Schuster contacted me. Within a matter of days, my brother Martin was underway. My first course of action was a trip to the King Center in Atlanta, Georgia, where Mrs. Farris, our editor, and I walked through the places of Dr. King's childhood. His childhood home at 501 Auburn Avenue, Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he and his father served as minister, and even the neighborhood firehouse, where he and his friends spent much of their time. I snapped photographs and listened while Miss Farris regaled us with recollections of a very playful and sometimes mischievous little boy who would grow up to change the world. I was moved beyond words and left Atlanta with the feeling of being a part of something historic. A few months later, after the manuscript was completed, I took a second trip from New York City to Atlanta. This time I brought my studio with me, cameras, lighting, equipment, backdrop, and costumes, in preparations for an extensive model shoot. Mrs. Farris, the epitome of Southern graciousness and charm, greeted me at Ebenezer Baptist Church. There she had gathered models she had personally chosen to bring her memories to life. The boys who pose as Martin Jr. and AD are both Mrs. Farris's great-nephews. Mrs. Farris's daughter, Dr. King's niece, portrays Mother Dear, Dr. King's mother. The assistant pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church portrays Daddy King. Even Christine's young granddaughter was an eager model and portrays a young Christine. The rest of the cast were personal and close friends of the King family. Many shared stories of their time with Dr. King, ML, as they refer to him, and each agreed their participation was a great tribute to the King family and their legacy. The spirit and generosity of Mrs. Farris, the staff at both the Ebenezer Baptist Church and the National Historic Site, and the King family helped to make my work on my brother Martin as genuine as I think possible. It is my hope that the part I played in the creation of this book helps Dr. King's vision of justice and harmony live on and on. Chris, Soentpiet, June 2002, New York, New York. Mrs. Farris's acknowledgments. This book would not have been possible without the encouragement of my loving and devoted husband, Isaac Farris Sr., and my precious children, Isaac Farris Jr. and Dr. Angela Farris Watkins. Because of their abiding spirits, I acknowledge my parents, Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King, for making our way possible. I am also grateful for the ongoing support of my dear sisters-in-law, Coretta Scott King and Naomi Barber King. They stood by my brothers in the struggle for freedom, raised their children single-handedly, and remained steadfast and true. Finally, I thank those who pose as models for the illustrations. My granddaughter, Farris Christine Watkins, my great-nephews, Uriah and Gabriel Ellis, and Ebenezer Baptist Church members, Jethro and Oretha English, Dr. Dolores Robinson, Reverend James Victor, Brenda Davenport, Carl Terry, and Gwendolyn Bunn. I am also appreciative of the creative genius exhibited by the illustrator Chris Soentpiet in visually capturing memorable experiences with my brother Martin. Finally, I wish to thank my editor, Kevin Lewis, for his guidance and helpful suggestions in the preparation of this book. Thank you for listening to Rest Time Stories. It's time to give stress a rest. Until next time, one love, one earth, one race, one people. Together, we are better.